For me, it was an act of selfishness, you know. And at that moment, I decided that I was going to be mother and father to my children. I was going to do the job that he should have stayed around to do, and he never did. And I vowed at that moment that I will never give my children a reason to miss him. I will give them the best, and I will make sure I will always be there for them. When I arrived in England, the idea was for me to continue my education, to go to college. But then I missed my boyfriend so much. I wanted to return to St. Lucia, but my mother wouldn't allow me. And she said, well, and I wanted to return then. She said, you have to stay. And then I said, well, I want him here. So she said, well, if you want him to be here, you've got to work and pay for his ticket for him to be here. So what I did, I forfeited my education and I went to work in a factory. And I saved my wage. It took me 3 months. And then I bought him a ticket for him to come over to join me. When he arrived in England, 3 months after he arrived, we got married. I got pregnant with my first child, Shireen, and we were happy. We had our own flat, and I was working. I had Shireen. Everything was fine. We later had a second child, Melissa, and we were still very happy and very contented. And we then went on to have a third child, which was Gemma, and things were fine. And when Gemma was a few months old, I noticed a slight change in him, being very quiet, not interacting with me and the children. He never wanted to provide any financial help at all. So basically, he was working, getting paid, but not wanting to buy shopping for me and the kids, clothes for us, pay the bills, nothing. And he just stopped talking to the household. And it went like that for about 3 months. And it escalated to the point that one day he said to me, I don't want you to sleep in the same bed as me. Actually, I don't want you in my bedroom. I remember one day I went out. It was a nice summer's day. The children were at home. He was at home. It was weekend, Saturday. Went to the market and I left him at home with the children. I was out for about an hour. By the time I got back home, he had sent all the children to bed. I came home, the house was in darkness, all the curtains were drawn. I went to the children's bedroom, woke Shireen up. Shireen was the eldest one. I said, well, why are you sleeping and why is the house in darkness? She said, well, Daddy smacked us all and sent us to bed and drew all the curtains. It led to the point where I became really desperate and I turned to my mom to help pay the rent, to my bills, to buy food for the children. Everything that we needed, I turned to my mom for. I knew my marriage had turned into a complete nightmare when I found a butcher's knife under his pillow when I went into his room when he'd gone to work. At that point, I felt I needed to tell someone because I hadn't told anyone, not even my family. My parents knew nothing. So I called my mom and I told her everything that happened. She went off and seek legal advice from a lawyer. And the lawyer said to her that I needed to leave with the children because the children were in danger. And so if I didn't leave, then the children will be taken away from me. So a refuge was arranged for me to move into. And that first night I went to sleep. I left the house when he'd gone to work, went to sleep over with my mom, waited for the following day when he'd gone to work, returned to the flat with my mom and a cousin of mine in order to take my clothes and some clothes for the children. I felt that he was out to work, he'd gone to work. So I went to the flat, but as I opened the door to come in, to get into the flat, he was standing right behind the door, grabbed a hold of me, and he was holding the butcher's knife, put it to my throat, and then he said to me, "Where have you been? Where have you been and where are the children?" He said, "You go downstairs to the nursery and get Melissa and Gemma and then return to the flat." I agreed because I was afraid he was holding a knife to my throat and I knew he would have killed me if I said no.